you are the answer to. So, I'm nothing special. I come from a single parent, working class background. I've had jobs in IT, sales, marketing. I've worked in professional and amateur sports. I've worked behind a bar. I've cleaned hotel rooms. I've even won awards in my teens for handing out the most flyers for live events. But my favourite job, I think, was probably working in a supermarket, stacking shelves. And I mean, what links all these jobs is people. But supermarkets are a real interesting place to find out a lot about people, to meet people, to talk to people, to watch people. And I'll never forget a conversation I once had with an old lady about piccalilli. Now, piccalilli is one of those things that you might think would be with the other sauces, like ketchup and mustard. But not where I worked. It was the other end of the store for some reason. So I showed this old lady where the piccalilli was, and we got talking. And it became clear that she was lonely. And her weekly Saturday morning shopping trip was one of the highlights of her week. She got to talk to people. So I run a community food growing project in Garforth called Incredible Edible. And it's expanded significantly since we first planted the seeds in late 2019. It's grown a lot and it's sprouted up in other areas of Leeds. Other groups have been putting down roots in the past year, all puns intended. And so what is it about Incredible Edible that brings so many people together? I mean, could it be the food? I mean, after all, we all need to eat. We've all got that in common. And the project's tagline is, if you eat, you're in. But for me, Incredible Edible is less about the food and more about people. It's about community. It's a simple concept of taking an unused and unloved space and doing something incredible with it. It's the kindness of planting food in public places for people to take for free. Showing people how easy and satisfying it can be to grow your own food and just seeing the smiles and the confidence that brings. I think if the past 18 months have shown us anything, it's that kindness can go a long way. Kindness and compassion can go a long way to improving the lives of others and even ourselves. Community is a verb. Last year, during the height of the pandemic, we handed out home growing packs to people who were shielded and couldn't get out. And we did that primarily to give people something to do, but also to show people just how easy it was to grow your own food. And these little home growing packs had a seed tray and some compost and seeds and regular contact to sort of see how people were getting along. And there was one lady in particular, she'd never grown before, and she was hooked. And she'd send us pictures of her growing with the disabled son, and this little boy just had the most amazing smile, and we'd get sent these regular pictures. They were really sort of coming along. And this year, through Feed Leeds, we put a little veg library on the main street in Garforth, and similar to the little free libraries where you can give a book, take a book, these little veg libraries have seeds and seedlings and growing magazines and people can take from it, but they give back to it as well. So people will take the seedlings, they'll grow at home, and then they'll harvest the produce and leave the produce for other people. It's been really popular, and hoping to get a few more around Leeds. And one day we got a message on our Facebook page, and it was from this lady with a disabled son, and sadly, tragically, he died quite suddenly, quite unexpectedly. And it really affected us as a group, but the message said that it had really got her through. The growing had been very much a welcome distraction for her, and it just went to show, because she'd actually delivered to the little veg library 2 full trays, about 30 seedlings in total. And that one simple act of giving one home growing pack and multiplied 30 times over, kindness really does spread. We all have the ability to inspire those around us. I mean, just think of what your passion might be. Food, photography, dance, drama, anything. I mean, perhaps there's something that you want to change for the better. The best ideas start with a conversation. How well do you know your neighbours? Very often it's a nod of the head as you pull the bins out. Or maybe it's trying to avoid eye contact as you bring the bins in your dressing gown. So how well do you know your neighbours? Our next door neighbour, he used to be a bus driver, and he's got a caravan. And he sold his caravan when his wife died, because he wanted one with he had a double bed, and he wanted one with twin beds. And he wanted one with twin beds so he could carry on his caravan holidays with his son. And he's the go-to neighbour, by the way, he knows everything that's going on. Pretty sure he's got a set of house keys for every house on the street. Round the corner is Bill, and Bill's in his 90s and he goes for a daily walk around the block. Even when he was shielding and he was told not to leave the house, he went for his daily walk around the block. And he's got a cat, which I don't think he particularly likes. And he talks about his wife, and she died a decade ago, and he still tears up when he talks about it. But he remembers quite vividly when he was growing up in the Second World War, and the air raid siren went off, so he went down into the basement with his family, and there was a direct hit, and the house was gone, completely reduced to rubble, and he remembers being trapped for quite a considerable amount of time. And these sorts of stories, they stick with you. And being curious and interested in my neighbours was one of the best decisions I've made. You know, I've learned so much from them, and perhaps they'll learn something from me too. I've not asked them yet. But placing the incredible edible beds in the heart of communities full of free food, it brings people together, young and old, and it opens up these types of conversations. I think far too often we judge a book by its cover. You know, sometimes if we're walking down the street at night and someone approaches us with their hood up, we might cross the road. Sometimes we do it without even realising. Or maybe we jump to conclusions about our neighbours. And speaking of jumping to conclusions, sometimes as a family we have vegetarian roast dinners. And for us, a vegetarian roast dinner is typically a beef or a chicken dinner, all the trimmings, just without the beef or the chicken. And we do this to be a little bit more climate conscious, but usually it's just to get more vegetables down the kids' throats. And when one of our family members found out about this, they were horrified. They thought we'd fallen at hard times. And I'd have been more than happy to explain, but you know, conclusions were drawn. We all had a laugh about it, and they were mortified. They were really apologetic. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? You know, in British culture in particular, we're always apologising, or we're always talking about the weather, or you know, if queuing was an Olympic sport, we win gold all the time. But I mean, think of the most ridiculous thing you've apologised for. You know, someone bumped into me the other day and I apologised. It just doesn't make sense. But again, a friend of mine came round recently and they brought cake. And I can't even remember the occasion, maybe there wasn't one. But they were in a hurry, they dashed off, being British, we're always in a hurry. And they apologised as they left for the cake being a little bit dry. And there I am standing holding the cake and they drove away. So I went inside, put the kettle on, very British, and cut a slice of cake. And it was perfect. There was nothing wrong with it. And even if it had been a little bit dry, which it wasn't, I'm a Yorkshireman, I'm not going to complain about anyone giving me free food. So, but the thing that stuck with me was just, again, simple acts of kindness of just sharing the food and just bringing a cake. I'm sorry, I digressed a little bit, but I did promise a food thing. So, very roughly, on average, we have less than 1,000 months on this planet. Now that shocks me, and I'm terrible at maths, by the way, but just take sort of an average life expectancy of about 80 and times that by 12, it's 960, I think. But as I said, I'm terrible at maths. And not to be morbid or anything, but the point is life is short. Less than 1,000 months, how much of an impact would you have over the next month? What is the question that you are the answer to? So find your passion, share it with a friend, family member, neighbour, and if you don't think you've got anything in common, invite them to dinner. The very action of sharing food means you've got more in common than you think. Believe in the power of small actions. So if I've inspired just one of you here today, then I've succeeded. And if we both succeed, and together, we might just change the world. Thank you.